Beer O'Clock, and this is the Beer O'Clock Show, where every week we sample a selected ale and engage in some light-hearted, beer-related banter. My name is Mark, and joining me from his weekly meeting of the Random Bloke Off Twitter Club is my beer mentor, Steve. Hello, Steve.
Hi, Mark. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How you doing?
I'm good. Good, thanks, mate.
Very good. Now, to explain that Random Bloke Off Twitter Club, apparently I need to make an apology for referring to someone you've met as a random bloke off Twitter.
No, I don't. You don't need to make the apology. I think just as a show in general, we just need to point out that last week we spoke about a random bloke off Twitter that had taught us had taught me how to smell and taste new flavors. That random bloke, I'm sure many of our listeners will know. It's a guy by the name of Justin Mason, who you can follow on Twitter at 1970s boy. I met up with Justin a couple of weeks back now to actually talk to him about our next event that we've got coming up in December, and Justin's going to help us with the planning of that as well. So keep your ears open for that one, because we'll be sharing a little bit more about that over the coming weeks. But we're planning something for around the 14th of December.
A nice little Christmas special.
Yes, a little Crimbo Crawl, as we're kind of touting it on the website at the moment.
Cool. So apology, Justin. I'm sure you're not just some bloke that Steve's met off Twitter. I'm sure you're a very special fella. So, Steve, have you had any interesting beers lately?
I have this week. I've had some really, really interesting beers. There are four in particular that I picked out to share with you this week.
Okay.
If I may. The first one was from Beavertown, and it was called Uncle Joe, and it was a limited edition bottling from Beavertown, and it was the style of beer was a Russian, and I think I'm going to pronounce this right, but I'm sure people would tell me if I'm not, kvass. Now, much the same as the saisons that we've been talking about recently, this is a beer that was originally brewed for the Russian workers to keep them watered and keep them going in the fields. But it was a really interesting beer in terms of it tasted like cold iced lemon tea, but with a beery flavour. But it had also been soured, so it had that sour edge to it that we got from the Wolf's Coat a couple of weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the first one that I want to mention. Second one was just referring back to when I met up with Justin again. Actually, he gave me a bottle of London Fields 3 Weiss Monkeys, which is a white IPA by London Fields, and he said to me, "I'm going to be reviewing this soon. And what I'd like you to do is to do what you want your listeners to do with the show. So when you read my blog about this beer, I want you to drink it and see if you're getting the stuff that I'm getting in my blog." So I did that on Thursday, and I got some of the stuff that he was talking about in his blog, but he's clearly got a much better palate than I have, because all I was getting was beer and wheat and yeast and hops and malt and all the things that...
What was he getting from it?
He was getting things like cloves and banana and orange and words I couldn't even pronounce. So that was probably the second one that I wanted to mention this week. And then the third one, I was in London. I was out in London on Friday night, and the Holborn Whippet had Magic Rock's Human Cannonball on. Now this is the one that sits in the middle between Cannonball, which is the IPA,
yep,
Unhuman Cannonball, which is the triple IPA, which we've done on the show. The Human Cannonball sits in the middle. It's the double IPA. And while it was a really nice beer, I've got to say, and I put this on Twitter at the time, I found it like the awkward middle child. It wasn't as good as either of the other two.
Yep.
So a little bit of a disappointment, but I can at least say that I've ticked all the Cannonball boxes for now. And then just one final one, probably a special mention actually for this one, Bear Republic Racer 5 IPA. Absolutely stunning. Really, really caramelly, toffee flavoured, really refreshing American IPA.
Cool.
So they're probably the highlights from my last week.
Very nice. I've only had a few. I actually posted a lineup of beers that I was going to have on Saturday night 3 beers and I only drank one of them.
You had quite the few on Friday night, though, didn't you? Weren't you checking a few in on Friday night as
I
well?
was, but I don't seem to have them on my list for some reason. The ones that I have tapped in. I'm looking at my tap now. I've got 2 of them here. The first is the Atlas Wayfarer by Orkney, which was a very fine IPA. Very nice. This was from the Great British Beer Hunt that you got me from Sainsbury's. And the other one was another one of those, which was the American Pride by Maxim.
What did you think of that? Because I had that at the weekend as well.
It wasn't too bad. It's not too shabby. I can't remember much about it. It's drinkable. Nothing too outstanding about it. What did you think?
I didn't really think much of it. I thought it was a fairly standard British brewery's attempt at an American IPA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was just it was a decent beer, but that's it.
Yeah.
And the other one I'm not sure if I'm allowed to mention this. It's the Jack Brand Dry Hopped Lager. I had from Adams.
You mentioned that.
Yeah. Well, I had one of those, which you picked up from Adams and Bloomsbury.
Yes, courtesy of Adams Bloomsbury, who I know listen to every show. So just thank you.
Thank you very much.
Dry hopped lager from Jack Brand.
You lovely, beautiful, cultured people in Bloomsbury.
Yes.
Very smooth, very wheaty, very nice. I've got another bottle somewhere. I will be having that again, but I would happily drink that. It was actually, I gave it 4 bottle tops out of 5. So they're the only ones I tapped in. I'm sure there's others that I've had. But that's all I have to say. And because 2 of those were from the Great British Beer Hunt, put on by Sainsbury's, Steve, you got a kind of a roundup of... Yeah.
By the time this show goes out on Friday, the official Great British Beer Hunt would have finished for the year. It ends on the 2nd of October. And the grand final is actually this coming Friday, so the 12 best-selling beers will go through to a tasting event that and then sort of like actual people that know about beer rather than the buying public will decide which beer is the best. And we were invited along to the finals this Friday, and unfortunately neither you or I could go, so we've kind of got a freelance sort of, I'm calling her a freelance reporter for the Beer O'Clock show. We spoke to some people to see if anybody would be willing to go along for us, and Emma, who a lot of people will know from Crema, one half of the Crema Brewery homebrew guys, she's going along to the finals for us. She's going to have probably a great afternoon out sampling loads of free beer, loads of free food, and seeing all the tastings and what have you going on. But she's also agreed to take some pictures and to write a bit of a blog for us as well about the event. So look out for that on our website in a couple of weeks. But I just thought I'd take the opportunity to share probably my top 3 from the Great British Beer Hunt this year. So, and in no particular order, that these are, firstly would be, in no particular order, firstly, in no particular order, Crafty Dan by the Thwaites Brewery, an absolutely stunning beer. Hopefully that places or wins so that it becomes a permanent staple on the shelves, because that beer should always be on supermarket shelves. Also within my top 3, I'd have to say the beer that we did last week, the Infrared by Hard Knot, because it would be nice to have that sort of beer available regularly. And then probably the final one would be the Harbour IPA, which I thought was quite a nice IPA.
Oh, I've got one
that was on offer.
That's one of the ones I had on lineup.
Yeah.
For settling up, but I never got around to it.
Yeah, I would highly recommend that one. So, but I think it's been a good year this year. There's been a good selection, and it's been interesting watching what these different people have been trying on Twitter and their thoughts around it. I'd say probably the one beer that's created the most discussion has been the Bateman's Black Pepper Ale the one that came with a sachet of pepper that you're supposed to sprinkle on top of it, really divided people's opinions between love and hate. That one did.
Right.
So yeah, well done,
It
Sainsbury's.
sounds disgusting.
I didn't go for it because I didn't like the sound of it at all. I just thought if I wanted that, I could possibly get a bottle of beer out of the fridge and just grind some pepper into the top of it, and yeah.
And it'd be just as much of a poor decision.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Things you should never do. Oh, I know what. I'll put some pepper in my beer.
My beer seems to be missing some condiments. I think
Yeah.
I'll add some spices.
Yeah. No.
Speaking of awards and finals, we had the World Beer Awards. We've got some news around that.
Yeah, that popped up this week. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here because when you start digging into their website, there are about 40 or 50 different categories of world's best beer. So I've picked out 3 that I'm going to share. World's best beer went to Primator Weizen beer, which comes from possibly Germany.
Okay, so a Weizen beer.
Weizen beer.
Yeah.
Apparently tastes like bananas, cloves, bubblegum and candy.
Sounds
Really not doing it for me. Yeah. But also won the world's best wheat beer as well, so probably
wheat
experimental
beer.
cider beer. Just to mention that the Thornbridge Wild Raven, as it's now called, it's no longer just Raven, it's now Wild Raven, Black IPA, won the world's best Black IPA again, 2nd year in a row.
Well done.
One of interest for you, best label went to Deschutes the Dissident.
Cool. I love a good
Means
label.
nothing. You can have a look at a picture of it if you want to go on the website. And then I think that's it. Full list on their website, worldbeerawards.com, if you want to have a look at the full list.
Cool. Another news item: the Nicholson's Beer Fest.
Yeah.
Stephen, what's going on here?
It's like buses, isn't it? You ask me week after week any news, and I'm like, no,
Nothing.
no,
I ain't got nothing.
nothing. And then this week, loads.
This week I got a bullet list.
Yes.
We must talk about all these things.
I have lots of news. Nicholson's. They're running a beer festival, 21st of October to 17th of November. Kind of overlaps a little bit with the Wetherspoons Beer Festival, but I don't think that's a bad thing. You know, it just means there's going to be loads of really decent beer available. Yeah. They're having a bit of a focus on IPAs, which is a good thing, as long as they're good IPAs.
I'm getting a bit bored of IPAs.
Well, yeah, I think it's going to run out soon, isn't it, as a style?
I sent you a link from Reddit, which is... there's a thread that they had on there. It wasn't in their beer subreddit. It was something else, but it had some people talking about if you drink too many IPAs, it'll get to the point where I can't remember what word they were, but basically your taste buds will get tired from tasting hops all the time, and you'll basically wear them out so you couldn't really adjust to other types of flavors. It would just be... what was the word? Yeah, it's almost like your taste buds would be worn out by the hoppiness of beers to the point where you couldn't taste anything else. Or if you had a non-hopped beer or non-IPA, you wouldn't appreciate it as much. Anyway.
No, I saw that, and I loved the little picture that came with it as well, that kind of showed where there was a decent beer in relation to, was it Bud Light?
Yeah.
In terms of the tasting. Yeah, I do wonder if that's the case actually, because I've started to move on to trying these sour beers now, because I'm looking for something new in the flavour.
Yeah.
But there's still many IPAs to try. But so yeah, they've got a bit, going back to the original thing, they've got a bit of a thing on IPAs. But they're also doing a thing with the newly reopened Truman's Brewery.
Yep.
Where they're going to have 2 beers on offer. One's called UK Gold and the other's called US PAL. And basically they want the consumers to decide which beer is going to become their next staple beer. So the UK Gold is all about British produce, so it's British hops, British malts, and producing a golden British beer, where the US PAL is like you typically aggressively hopped US Pale Ale. And
Mhm.
basically what they're saying is if you go into a Nicholson's and you see one of these beers and taste it, you can then feed back to Truman's what you think of it on trumansbeer.co.uk/TTT. And what they'll do is they'll refine it during the period of the beer festival until they get to a point where they've got an outright winner, which will then become part of their staple beer range. So I thought that was quite interesting that Nicholson's had teamed up with the newly reopened Truman's Brewery.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, well, before we get to this week's featured beer, we have a little. I think we mentioned this last week. Tell me if I didn't. But our Back in Black event, which is coming up November 1st, which is a Friday, and I'm going to try and remember exactly what it is. It's in conjunction with Camera RGB, right?
Yes.
It's a Twitter event.
Yes.
And it's called Back in Black.
Yeah.
And basically, it's Steve tweeting about all the black beers he's drinking and hoping other people join in.
That's pretty much the sum of it, but more.
By the way, I've got 2 beers lined up for it.
Woo!
I've got my. Can I tell you which ones they are?
You can share those, yeah.
Okay, it's the Raven that I've got left over.
Excellent.
And I've got a Brooklyn Stout.
Oh, right, okay.
Have you had one of them before?
No.
Yeah, I got that.
Excellent.
Yeah. So
you reckon you can do them both in an evening?
Why not? It's a Friday. Hopefully I don't have to do anything productive the day after.
What I thought I'd do, because I'm planning to do 4 beers that night as part of the evening, and seeing as we've got 4 episodes left until the actual event, I'm gonna, much like the beer event calendar from last year, I'm going to share a different beer every week that I'm going to be doing that evening, and see if anybody actually still cares by the time we get to the end of it.
All right, you're doing your first tonight. You're doing one next week.
And now I'm going to do my first one tonight, and these are going to go up percentage wise. Okay. So I'm going to start with a low ABV and finish on a ridiculously high ABV. But the first one I'll be doing for Back in Black, which will be fairly early on in the evening, is the rather obviously titled Black by Crouch Val. Now I have had this before and I've spoken about it on a previous show. It's a 6% beer. Apparently with treacle, licorice and roasted coffee flavours, but summit hops to give it a citrusy punch. That's where I'm starting, and that's a 500ml bottle as well.
Oh.
So it's going to go rapidly downhill from there for me. But tune in next week, folks, to see what my next beer will be.
Okay, let's get on to this week's featured beer. It's the first of the American beers that we're going to be featuring throughout the season. It's one that Steve picked up. Where did you pick this up from?
This was one of the beers that I got when I went to Owls by Mal.
That's right, I almost said Mail by Ale. That would be nice.
Down in Billericay. So thanks to Owls by Mal again for hosting me for that morning and for supplying us with this and a few of the other beers that we're going to be sampling this season.
Yeah, so this is a beer from the Odell Brewing Company in Fort Collins, Colorado. It is a 5.2% ABV, and it's the 5-barrel pale ale. So, distinctive hop character of a 5-barrel pale ale is derived from essential oils of select hops. 4 hop additions during the kettle boil, an infusion of choice whole flower hops in the hop back, and finally dry hopping gives the beer a fresh, lively flavour and floral aroma. Now, America's really grown with their craft beer scene, haven't they? There's so many little breweries over there now.
That they have, they're really into it, and one of the big characteristics of the American craft beers is the hoppiness that comes to it. And I'm just wondering if, from that description that you just read out there, if I'm not sure if they put any hops in this or not.
Might be a little hoppy, mate.
Yeah, essential oils.
So basically, they've put hops in plus the oils from the hops.
and the flowers as well, and then they've dry hopped it just in case there wasn't already
Oh,
enough hops in there.
bloody hell.
So I'm imagining this is going to be quite a hoppy beer.
Yeah. I was going to say it also has a government warning, but I imagine they've got them on all the American beers.
Yes, it's interesting looking at an American beer bottle because it's just the label's different, isn't it?
Yeah,
because obviously their licensing laws are different.
But I mean, the quality of the label is a nice parchmenty label. It's like a fancy wine bottle type label. The feel of it. It's really nice. And
yeah, it is.
the bottle's got hop flowers around it. Really nice. This is worth keeping, this one.
Yeah, it's a keeper.
Yeah, so let's crack this open.
Let's give it a go.
Give it a go. I was going to say that Americans in the craft beer scene over there, they don't really do session beers, do they? Their beers tend to be in the higher ABVs. But I think
it's all about the big flavours.
Yeah, I remember reading or watching something on YouTube where they're slowly moving to the session beer idea.
Yeah. Well, this was one of those that when back midway through season 2, when I was visiting Owls by Mail, I did put out a thing on Twitter suggesting if anybody had any recommendations for good American craft beers, and this one was suggested a few times.
Oh, the floweriness coming off that. That is hoppy as hell.
Oh, yeah.
Look at that head as well. Nice 2-finger head on that.
Really earthy.
Oh,
really
wow.
earthy flavours to it.
That's the kind of smell you like off your beard, isn't it?
Yeah.
The hops off that, yeah. That initial burst of flowery hops coming over.
Lovely colour as well. Lovely golden amber colour.
Yep.
It's the chill on the glass. It's ever so slightly cloudy, but you can just about see through it. That looks like a really appetising beer. Yeah. If you can use the word appetising in association with a drink.
Oh, you certainly can.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's not, because you haven't had this before, have you?
I've not had this before.
Right.
My American adventures into beer extend about as far as Brooklyn Lager and the Samuel Adams
And Goose
Boston Lager and Sierra Nevada.
And Goose Island IPA, have you had that?
And yeah, Goose Island. So mainly the more traditionally commercially available ones on the UK shelves. This is from a proper kind of craft brewery in America. So this is a first for me. It's not very often I say that on here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get into it, mate.
Let's give it a go.
Let's see if I can get through this without doing an American accent.
Oh, don't bring the accents in again.
All right, chin chin.
Oh.
I was wincing as I was tasting that because I could just feel the spice coming in.
It's like a wave of bitterness.
Yeah, I just got the second wave.
Just keeps coming.
Oh, wow.
There's the flowers, there's the hops, there's the oil. It's all washing over me. It's a hop tsunami.
Yep.
Would that be a hop tsunami? Hop? No, I'm not gonna play with that because it's never gonna work, is it?
Hurricane hops.
I can see where you're going with the spiciness, because on that second swig, I'm instantly being taken back to Sierra Nevada Pale Ale and that spicy pepperiness that you get with it. Yeah. Although this is a lot more bitter.
Yeah, maybe spicy wasn't the right word. It was the bitterness. But it was like the multi-layered bitterness coming through as I was taking those first sips. And then, like you said, that second wave coming through. afterwards. It's like
you get the initial wave on the first swallow of liquid, but then on the remnants left in your mouth, you're then picking up a second and a third wave, and it just keeps coming.
Okay, so far this is an interesting beer.
Yeah.
It's very, very well hopped. No surprise, considering what they said on the back.
No, none whatsoever there.
I mean, now the trick is to find what's underneath the hops, because it's quite a fresh tasting beer.
It's very fresh. I think my taste buds are settling into it a little bit now.
Yeah, it is very Sierra Nevada-ish. That, was it an IPA they do? The Pale Ale.
Pale Ale is that's just the Torpedo is their IPA.
That's right.
That they do.
Yeah, it's very similar to that, but it doesn't have that quite strong pepperiness to it.
No, it's there, but it's not quite as strong.
Yeah, with the Sierra Nevada, it was like real intense peppery.
Yeah.
Whereas this is really pleasant. I mean, the hops add real character to it. There's not real deep maltiness to it, so it's quite fresh. I would hesitate to say if this was a little lower on the ABV, you could quite have this as a session beer.
I think you could, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'm barreling through mine.
Brilliant. Here we go.
So
Mark does a beer
this.
in 15 minutes again.
Yeah. I'm quite liking
There's
this
week's
one,
hashtag. Mark in 15.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's quite generous. Thank you very much.
It is nice, actually. What I don't want to... I suppose what I want to try and avoid as we venture into these few American beers that we're going to do this series is obviously you've got those kind of benchmark American beers that you know and trust, the ones that you can get from UK supermarkets. Mm-hmm. We're always going to try and make that comparison back.
It's only natural, yeah.
But this is... I've got to say that first mouthful I took, I was like, whoa, don't know if I like that. That's a bit too much. Yeah. Second mouthful, better. Third mouthful, even better. And now I'm settling into it. It's like I'm settling into my stride a little bit now. Mm-hmm. And that's a damn fine beer.
It is a very, very nice beer, yeah. Quite fresh on the belch as well. Belch on the belch.
Marking 12. So, shall we let's talk a little bit about the brewery.
Okay.
Because I think it'd be nice, seeing as this is probably a one-off for us, featuring some of these American beers. Try and focus a little bit on the brewery and where they've come from. So, Odell's Brewing, www.odellbrewing.com for more information. Quite an informative website. Tells you all about their history, where they started, what they do, and all the rest of it. Founded in 1989 as a small batch, handcrafted beers brewery, and since then they've now grown to a size where they've got their brewery occupies 45,000 square feet. Ooh. And they've just sold 45,000 barrels of their beer. So at the moment they're saying that equates to 1 barrel per square foot in their history. They're well known for experimenting with beer recipes. They've done things like barrel aging, which obviously we've covered before with a few beers, but also yeast cultivation. Now, okay, I have no point of reference there. I have no idea what that means. So if anyone does know, particularly Nate Dogg, if you're listening in, buddy, let us know what yeast cultivation is.
I'm going to take a swing at that.
Go on then.
This is where my 300 mils of a 5% ABV beer, my scientific hat on. Well, Nate told us last season about how the yeast affects the taste of beers, especially in the European ones. I'm assuming yeast cultivation, they're growing their own different types of yeasts. I'm assuming they have a lab somewhere.
Yeah,
And
possibly.
Basically, like different strains of hops. They're just trying different strains of yeast and bringing that into their beers. So that's what I reckon it is.
I could see that,
buddy.
actually. Because you could take that, you could take the underlying flavour in this beer, and you can almost match it back to those Belgian beers that we did last season.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's that yeastiness that's coming through in there. But
just imagine
yeah.
if you cultivate your own particular strand of yeast and it gives a particular flavour to your beer, then you've got that nailed down there. No one else can get that flavour.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's like if you grew your own hops and you were the only one who had access to that hops.
Then your hops would be completely unique to you, yeah.
Yeah.
And they also do something at the brewery called that they have a pilot system of brewing, which allows their brewers to try new ideas, new flavour combinations, new recipes, that sort of thing. And the pilot system will produce 5 barrels of beer at a time. Hence the name of this particular bottle of beer is a nod towards that system, 5 barrel pale ale. That's where it first came from, was the pilot system as a trial, and now it's one of their kind of stable beers from their range.
And a very good beer it is. This would be, I have my standard beers that I like to buy. If I go into Whole Foods and I'm looking for something a bit fancy, then I will get my Brooklyn IPA. You know, I'll look for various bits, and if I saw this somewhere, I would pick one of these up every single time.
You would bite the hand off of this, wouldn't you? Yeah. If you saw it somewhere.
This is a nice beer.
Yeah.
Right, I'm going to finish mine off because I'm very, very close to the bottom. Oh, that's nice.
That is really nice.
I'm going to tap this in. Odell, not Adele. Odell.
No, not Adele. I'm not going to sing. I've sung once before.
I'm going to give this 5 because I love this beer.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't of the ballpark.
I can't fault it. It was. I'm not one for these heavily hopped beers, but this is so nice.
You know what?
If I took it a bit slower, I'd probably enjoy it even more.
I think the hopping in it is actually perfectly balanced because it's not overpowering. You do get an instant blast of it, but then it fades away, and it fades away nicely, and it makes you want to go back for more, pulls you in to it. I'm not sure I'd quite go the 5, but I'd probably give it a 4.5.
Okay.
It's up there. It's up there as a good beer.
Yeah. Well, this is kind of setting the precedent for the American beers we've got ahead of us now.
Yeah, this would definitely set the benchmark.
Yeah.
The others have got a lot to live up to.
Indeedy. Right, that's it for this week. Oh, Steve, let's wrap this up. So, what's coming up next week? I think we have a very special little boy coming back to the show.
I think we do. The newly demoted. I think I put him all the way down to number 3 fan at the weekend. Staff, aka Cricket Jeff.
Jeff
is back on next week's show.
What am I going to call him?
It's quite amusing to. Have you noticed how many people are referring to him as Jeff on Twitter now?
I still get confused when I see him. I go, who's this Jeff fellow and why does he know me?
Yeah, it's Staff. He's back on next week, and we're going to be reviewing one of the Marks and Spencer's beers next week, the single hop Citra, which is basically Oakham Owl's Citra in a Marks and Spencer bottle.
Do I have one of them, or do I need to go and buy one?
You need to go and buy one, I think.
Oh, okay. I have to find a Marks and Spencer's. Cool. I'll go to the one near the Liverpool Street Station.
Well, there's 2 in Liverpool Street Station.
The one heading towards
Go to the one upstairs. Yeah, the one upstairs has got a much bigger range of beer.
Oh, really? The little one?
No, it's not little. It's huge. It looks little from downstairs. Is all this going in? This isn't going in, is it?
Yeah, why not?
No, don't put this. To us talking about Liverpool Street, really?
Well, people who work in and around Liverpool Street might be wondering where they can get beer, Stephen. And this is
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
The Marks and Spencers I was talking about.
In that case, go upstairs because they've
is-
got a bigger selection.
Is the one as you're walking towards my work, towards Old Street. It's not actually at the station. Never mind. I'll have a hunt around. I'll find some beer. M&S Citra next week on the beer.
M&S
show.
Citra.
Right. That's
Yes.
it. Good night, Stephen.
Okay.
It's a pleasure as
Night,
always.
Mark. Oh, I'm going to say it every week. My new catchphrase: highlight of my week. Love it.
Cool. Cheerio.
See you later.